Man, I was not fired. I was kicked out like a dog. Like a piece of rag, I was kicked out. To a point of, I went home and I sat and I cried. And my family cried with me. And I walked out, and then of course we had to go through all the legal winding up of everything. But in this time, there was no income. And that was the start of my decline. The start of my decline.
Back from Zero, ke lenaneo leo tlisetsang nalane ya ma-Afrika Borwa a ileng a teana le mathata a tjhelete. Empa ba lwana gagaolane molamo wa tshepe hore ba iphumane ba le ka sehlohlolong ho hlola mathata ana.
Good afternoon. I'm Kenneth Alexander. I'm an author and an artist, and I live in Athlone. My childhood growing up was a very protected childhood. And I was then born in Athlone at an aunt's place in a garage. And that is where I grew up in Charlton Road in Athlone. Our family finances, we were, I think, privileged because my father was an artisan. He was a bricklayer and plasterer and a drain layer. And he's qualified in all those fields. So yes, he was quite sought after at the time. It's not like we were lived millionaires' lives, but we had food on the table. We paid by the week. So every week, we had power, we had everything I think we needed, and we also had even Christmas presents, So growing up, I was not even aware of the political situation around me, other than when eventually, when we went to high school. Then a person started to realize, but things are not the same. We don't play on the same type of fields. When you look and drive past a school in the leafy suburbs of maybe Wynberg or Claremont or so forth, our schools didn't look like that. Yeah, well, the building company was doing not too bad, but he was sponsored by two, an Englishman and an Irishman. And because my father, look, although he was earning and working, he was making money, but it was from week to week. We had food on the table, and that was it. There was no extra money. But with these people coming in, they supported him, they pumped some money into the business, and then the business took off, yeah. But they had the controlling power because they had the money in the business. And then during one off period when work wasn't so good, they used to work and they bought a plot, for example, in Simonstown, a beautiful plot, and they built a nice double-story home there. And when that was done, his funders decided to pull the mat from under him. And he went home with a red bakkie, a couple of wheelbarrows and a couple of spades, and they took the house in Simonstown, which is actually a very sore point. It was almost like, at the time, then there was no BEE at that time. But it's almost like a BEE gone wrong. And that really knocked us as a family. Okay, at that time, although I had just about started working when the company crashed. So I worked and I did in-house working with a company in Cape Town, which meant that I then brought in some extra income into the home, which offset my father's, disappointment or problem that he had. Although he went on working. But money wasn't as available as it was prior to that. And I worked in for about 2.5 years in Cape Town, for about 200 Rand a month. And then I saw a little gap and I thought it's time that I need to get out of this rut. And one way of doing that is to change jobs. And that's when I went to Mossel Bay. I applied for a job in Mossel Bay. Nou, om Mossel Bay toe te gaan, is nie net Mossel Bay toe te gaan nie. Het is heeltemal 'n ander verandering van goed nou. Skielik werk ek in 'n area of 'n dorpie seedorpie waar baie mense baie min het, behalwe die blanke mense. Alhoewel ek R800 'n maand verdien het, ek het werk toe gegaan in stukkende klere, stukkende jeans, want dis hoe jy werk op 'n gebou. En toe die mense my sien, die onderwysers en selfs die verpleegsters, wil hulle nie met my gemeng het nie. Omdat ek werk op die gebou. You know? Maar nog steeds, daai klasverskil ding het ingekom. En dit was moeilik omdat ek het nie baie vriende gehad nie. Hoe ek Deirdre ontmoet het is heeltemal 'n ander saak. Kyk, ek werk nou met die gebou oukies. En kyk, Vrydag is vir ons dis party time. En ons party heavy. En sy kon nie met dit jy weet, dit didn't gel for her.
I was on holiday, but then I needed to come back to varsity because I didn't make it in my first year of study. And I needed a love to get back because it was too much fallout at home. And that's how we met.
Leaving Mossel Bay, that was not a decision I made. It's something that happened on site. And one of my buddies who were working, soos ons by die fabriek uitry, het die een buddy van my Sidwell Dupree, so 21, hy sit op die agterkant van die lowbed, en toe glip hy af tussen die lowbed, tussen die trailer en die perd. The perd is now the motor that's pulling the lowbed, and he slipped between the two, and the lowbed with, I don't know how many tons of concrete on it, flattened him completely. Nou toe die begrafnis nou kom en so voort, en die firma het geen belang gestel nie. Die firma het 'n paar rand gegee. Nie een van die bestuurders, nie een van die direkteure, nie een van die mense in 'n hoë posisie het selfs 'n draai gemaak by die familie nie. I did that. En toe die begrafnis nou klaar was die dag, toe sê ek, that's it. Toe pak ek my goed in my motor, en ek ry Kaap toe. Ek het nie bedank nie, ek het net gery. Back then, the only labor laws that we had protecting workers was the Dompa system, where people of color had to walk around with a pass. There was no labor laws protecting people. There was no CCMAs, nothing of that sort. You're wrong. I mean, you may not question a boss. You may not question a company. You're going to lose.
Ho sebetsa ha Kenneth Mossel Bay ho ile ha monna monyetla wa ho fumana maemo a phahameng ho feta bomphato ba hae. Ha re khutla papatsong, Kenneth re phetela ka moo bophelo ba hae bo ileng ba tetebela ka teng ka mora hore a khutlela motseng wabo. Re a o amohela, o shebelletse Back from Zero, lenaneo le ikemiseditseng ho hlahloba dikamano tsa ma-Afrika Borwa le tjhelete. Pele re a papatsong, Kenneth o ne a re phetela hore o fumana mosebetsi Mossel Bay ho mo tliseditse jwang menyetla e ileng ya mo fa tokoloho maemong a hae a tjhelete le ho tsa lerato. Empa ka mabaka a itseng, o ile a tlameha ho tlohela mosebetsi wa hae ho qala bophelo bo botjha. Ha re utlwe ho ya pele.
And starting the pharmacy, I think it was my idea, because Deirdre was very much, my first daughter was born, right? And I think she wanted a second child. I wanted the business. She was managing a pharmacy at the hospital at the time. Then I thought, why manage Mediclinic's pharmacy when you can manage your own pharmacy? We started the pharmacy, we were funded from some group, one of these bigger groups. Pump some money into the business, but to prepare the business and to get the shop sorted out, we had to do that ourselves, right? And also the rental that didn't come from our pocket. So I was working at the time for a rather large consulting company, consulting engineers, and I was earning a reasonable salary once again, so I could fund this venture to offset the lack that she may have had, although she was working at the big company, working at the hospital, so her monies also came in, we put them together. Started the pharmacy, was a good venture, but it was on the wrong place. It was positioned on Swartklip Road, which was the main road into Mitchells Plain, as well as into Khayelitsha from the northern suburbs. There was no traffic on Swartklip Road. So there was no passing traffic. The pharmacy lasted a while, but it was a dead duck. Worked long hours, but it just didn't work. We had at the time, now once again, we were go-getters all the time. We had 2 homes at that time as well. I had a house in Mitchells Plain that I was renting, and I had a home in Zikkelplay where we stayed. And because of the pharmacy going bankrupt, there was no way that we could overcome certain things like car payments and stuff like that. And the car was repossessed. We had 2 cars, but the nice one was repossessed. The home in Mitchells Plain, we had to sell. So it was a very black period in our lives. It was a scary period. I then went walking the roads of Zikkelplay and picking up bottles from fields. I picked up metal pieces. I picked up anything that I could change for money. And eventually, we had to sell the house, and we sold it at a loss. But we had to sell it. Yeah, after us having to leave, with a couple of rand we made, we moved into a house in Muizenberg, but it was a rental. I decided, look, I need to go back to the drawing board. In the 11th month, I got a call from the company I worked for previously, many years ago, in between all this. And there was an Afrikaanse firma in Durbanville, Bell area, Durbanville. Toe sê hulle my, man, kom ons praat 'n bietjie. En dit was toe BEE, kom Black Empowerment, en kom. Toe moet ek met 'n trein ry van Meisenberg tot Soutrivier, van Soutrivier tot Bellville, van Bellville 'n taxi pad Durbanville toe. En in die aand presies dieselfde roete. Dit was 'n killer. Maar daar was daai wortel dat jy gaan 'n direkteur van die firma word. En maar die projek het goed gegaan. Het 'n paar rand gemaak en na die 2 jaar op was, toe trek ek 'n winst, toe raak ek 'n direkteur by die firma. Toe slaan ons 'n groot job. Dit begin by 'n 1.1 miljoen rand projek en toe groei die projek na 11 miljoen rand se projek. En dit was die begin van groot goed. En toe die werk inkom, toe raak die geld ons nou natuurlik 'n bietjie beter. Toe koop ons 'n huis in Athlone waar ons gister was. Jy weet, by ons huis waar ons is. Ja, dit was smart. En toe kom die motors en toe kom die fancy goed en die televisiestelle en die vakansies en ons was dit was on top of the world. Jy weet, ons het oorgenoeg geld gehad. Ja, after everything was going so good, what happened? Ek is gebore in Athlone en ek kon nie gesien het hoe mense sukkel nie. People, and as they are still living today, many people in Khayelitsha, for example, in Heinz Park, there's no proper sewerage works. And if we talk to our municipality, we talk to our local government, we talk to our national government, and they do nothing about it, how are we going to get our story across? And based on that, I supported the community in what they did. And based on that, I voiced it on Facebook. And at that time, I was being earmarked already because I became a troublemaker. And it's on that Facebook post that I put that I was called in and the post was thrown at me like I was a dog. And I said, but what's going on? Hoe kom to sê you're a problem child, jy veroorsaak probleme. Because kyk, 'n klomp van ons werk wat ons gedoen het was by die munisipaliteit van Kaapstad om governmentwerk. En ek gaan nou daai supply of work gaan ek nou stopsit deur my attitude. What happened after that? Man, I was not fired, I was kicked out like a dog. like a piece of rag. I was kicked out to a point of, I went home and I sat and I cried, and my family cried with me.
That's when it started. Of you don't own anything, although he was a 33% shareholder. You do not have a say in this company. You do not. He was chased away like a dog, putting it simply, putting it mildly.
And I walked out, and then, of course, we had to go through all the legal winding up of everything. It started off by CCMA, and then it went to the Labour Court. That's another process again. Right? Somehow I managed to latch on to somebody, an advocate, who said, okay, I'll do the what's name. I had to give him my last 30,000 rand or something. I had to give him. But in this time, there was no income. We had knocks on our door. We had the sheriff of the court there more than once to come and load up our furniture. We had people coming to take the cars. It was horrible. All the people that worked with me don't talk to me all of a sudden. And you don't get much family support, no much neighbor support. We had to stand on our own. And they did nothing. They just settled. And I had to just take what they gave me. And I just took what they gave me. Because there was no way that we could, we were on our very last. And we had to just take. And that led me to start to write books. It went like that for about 6 months, and then I decided to write a book now. All of a sudden, I thought this is an avenue for me to tell my story. But I couldn't tell my story because I knew by telling my story, I would be putting other people on the spot, which would be putting myself on the spot. Because I knew people would have a backlash, they would get me. So from a legal aspect, I refused to write my experiences. But I wrote where I grew up. And I wrote things that happened in the area. I didn't write about this incident now. I wrote 4 books in the first year. And published them as well. And it was crazy the way I went on. The last book I wrote, Man About Town, that is almost like an autobiography, about 50% autobiography of my life. Right? But after the first year of writing, I then decided I must now paint.
Re a o amohela, o ntse o shebelletse Back from Zero, lenaneo le ikemiseditseng ho shebana le dikamano tsa ma-Afrika Borwa le tjhelete ya bona. Ka jano re etetswe ke mongodi le motaki ya bitswang Kenneth Alexander, ya re phetelang hore o iphumane jwang e se le motaki ya iphedisang ka botaki ba hae. Ha re utlwa ho ya pele.
Like a lot of my artwork, you'd see portraits of myself, and it's blue and pink and orange, and eyes are out maybe, but it's all exhibiting where I was. Like I would say, for example, you can take my eyes out. You can take my eyesight, but you can't take my vision. And a lot of my art was that type of genre. It was a bit dark. People won't buy it. And I've now moved over where I'm painting and drawing and sketching political events to tell people who are younger than me what happened and to remind the older people of what happened. Because so many of us forget. But my artwork is not going to forget.
For me personally, I think it tells stories to young people who don't know about the struggle days, that they're not going to go read the books, but if they see the pictures, it may trigger them to remember or think back. So his artwork speaks a lot about that.
I have had people buying of my art. I have of my art in America, people bought in America, England, France. But there is a definite overseas market. And I'm working now on a different, not working on a one-to-one, trying to get one. I'm looking at galleries. I'm looking at archives. So my work is going to go into archives. In fact, I've got stuff at the Slave Museum already. I've exhibited at Ezekiel. And I've got something happening at City Hall coming up soon.
Well, I didn't know Deirdre very long and very well, but I do know when he originally opened up the art gallery here, I think around about 2018, Deirdre was saying, this is the culmination of more than a year's planning, and it's a dream come true for them. So she has been instrumental in supporting him. So she plays that role that I think Kenny, as the artist, would not be able to do both roles effectively. So I think she plays an important role in his life in this work.
A lot of the paintings from starting at that time expressed hurt, pain, these emotional turmoil. Even if you look at his work next door, where how he sees himself, and it's up and down because of the battle we find ourselves in now, after having been in a place of doing very well, and now in a place where we have to dig into whatever provision we made for our future was taken away, and we have to fight now for what is due to us.
I think we have a tendency to think that High Court, wow, scary place. CCMA, boom, scary place. Labour Court, scary place. I think it was a scary place pre-1994. It's no longer scary. When you walk in there, there's people like you, people your color, people that you can talk to, people that understand you, and just go and reach out. There are people who's prepared to help you, who are sitting right there. It's no longer a scary place.
Bophelo ba Kenneth bo ile ba fetoha ha na qala ho hlahisa lerato la motse wa hae pepeneneng. Nakong ena o ile a lemoha lerato la hae la tsa botaki le ho hatisa tsa dipolotiki tsa nako eno. Pale ya Kenneth re ruta ka bohlokwa ba ho dula re eme dipashasha hore re tsebe ho fetola maemo a rona, ho sa kgathatsehe hore re shebane le eng.